And we are live, guys. Thank you for being here. And I'm happy to report that I'm not in Sweden, Swedish cold today. I'm in beautiful Greece, in the Crete, actually. So if anyone has been there in the comments, let me know some good tips. Has any of you been there, James or Ivan?
Yes, I spent a lot of time in Greece when I was in single digits as a young person. A lot of time in Athens, and I've been to at least about 18 Greek islands. I know them all very well. I love Greece.
And I actually have a fun story to tell that I'm here with my two oldest children, and when we were having breakfast yesterday, a guy came up and said that, Lars Online must be blue if you are taking a break and you're on vacation. I thought of something that it happens actually really frequently. Someone comes up and says something, and it's always, without exception, it has always been nice things. Then he said, I just want to thank you for all the videos. I've learned a lot, and I also want to thank James and Ivan, he said, because I watch them too, and maybe you can forward my thanks. So now I'm doing that. And it happens much more than I would have thought, that actually someone comes up, and it must happen to you also.
Yeah, I had to go back to Europe to attend a funeral, and I was staying at a very nice hotel, and not one, but both doormen were big crypto guys, and they saw me come out of the car, and they were on their phones. It's like, oh wow, cool, and they were so funny because they were very attentive after that, and wanted to talk. And then once they start talking, but it was just incredible the type of poop coins that they were trading as well.
I was just gonna say that, because I was buying furniture a few summers back. It's gotta be in 2021, and so you buy the furniture here, and then you have to go with your car to their back door, and then they're gonna lift the furniture into your car. And there, those guys who are lifting furniture, they were all in Shiba. And that was a very good decision, but at first it was in the early days of Shiba, where it still was unclear if it would be something. But I also thought the same. They gotta be real altcoin traders, deep into the alts. But they did very, very well if they hodled until the bull market.
Yeah, but I think it's the interesting thing, because many times in the comments someone is angry and saying something negative, but it has actually never happened that someone says something negative in person. It's always positive comments, and it's really inspiring. So thanks everyone, and I don't mind people coming up. I think it's just nice. So thanks everyone. We have a lot to cover today, so let's jump right in. We have the Bitcoin price action. We have something that's happened in the macro charts that I think is very interesting. The US 2-year yield. Has Bitcoin stalled? Let's really settle that. And did USDT depeg, because we had Binance US spread this morning. Solana has pumped, and big time. Why has it pumped? What is happening? Stablecoins, is it a threat to financial stability, like the BIS survey has stated? And the SEC has now really started suing DeFi protocols on Ethereum. Where will this end? So those are the points I thought to cover. Bitcoin is at resistance. What is happening here? Should we start with overall picture? Have you guys changed your mind? Is the bull market over, or how do you see it here? James, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I see incredible strength when you look at the price of Bitcoin and how it's staying up. And it's almost, I think, Ivan, maybe you said this once before, it's nearly trading like a stable coin. The stable coins are moving more in some cases on some exchanges than Bitcoin, like at that 30K level. And I always look at the big money moves, and I look at the whale portfolios and what they're doing. And literally, the only people that are probably selling are those people with less than 10 Bitcoin. Everybody else is stacking. The money flows are at a huge third week. I can't remember the exact number, but a massive amount of money flew in again to, I think, about 130 million into ETP equivalents, mainly in Sweden, Europe, Canada, etc., Brazil. So the money's still flowing in. It's still being stacked. I think there's some weird stuff happening behind the scenes, though, with, Binance, etc., that's impacting everything. And a lot of retail investors still think, they can sell now and buy in cheaper later. But we don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, and also
Ivan,
the media.
What's your gut feel? Yeah.
It's interesting how the media has changed. It feels that they're nicer to crypto overall. I just read the other day that, Bitcoin is not that bad for environment. It's really changed since BlackRock came out with their ETF proposal to the SEC. But overall, listen, it's the same as last week. Nothing has changed. We're exactly where we were. And it's super simple. Following the trend, whether it's Larson line or some other trend indicator, like we follow BSI, it is bullish and like last week, so no adjustments on our front.
That's great. Happy to hear that. And I think there is one chart that is really, really interesting to look at. Let me see if I can put this in full screen. And that is actually not the Bitcoin chart right now, but it's the 2-year yield chart. So this one, which has been running up, and since 10th, 11th of May, it has really started trending up. And it came to a very critical point 2 days ago. And that was this high point from March. Price ran up, it ran above that level, which seemed like a breakout. And just if anyone is new here, a strong 2-year yield often means weaker speculative assets like Bitcoin. So if this one started breaking out here, that was a huge worry sign for Bitcoin markets, at least for me. But as you can see here, instead of breaking out, it got rejected big time. And we got like a wick up, then we got a wick down, which can really be a reversal. So for now, this one looks rejected, which I think could mean if it really stays rejected, starts moving down instead, that can be the fuel that Bitcoin needs to take another leg up. So what is happening with the yield market? James, you often have very interesting insights when it comes to the macro. Do you want to start with this one? What is happening with the yield market?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because they always say the bond market tells the truth as to what's going on. But the 2-year rejection was quite notable. I did see the same thing myself as well. What we really need to focus on is the spread between the 2-year and the 10-year. And that is the most inverted yield curve we've had for over 40 years. And the level at which it's inverted is going to continue to put massive stress on the banking system. Banks typically, they buy long-term dated bonds and they pay out short-term dated things. So every time this yield curve keeps going more inverted, it's adding pressure to that banking industry, banking stress. And I don't know, something is going to break. Again, I don't know. I've never seen anything like this, especially in this situation. A lot of people are now talking about, well, we're going to have a soft landing. Anyway, everything's just going to be fine. Markets are up. Nobody can understand it. You've got the bears that are eating their paws off because they're like, why is the stock market not at 3,000 instead of 4,500? But it's all because as well, there's a lot of money that needs to be put to work. There's a lot of disruption happening with AI. And the job market is, some of the data that they're seeing is kind of, the job market data that the government looks at is really, really bad, but it's giving the Fed the impression that the economy is really strong. But the problem is in the US, sometimes people have 2 or 3 jobs. They're very low paying jobs. A lot of the jobs are government funded. A lot of the data is very backward looking. The labor market's structurally different due to the C-19 situation. A lot of people, the Great Resignation, people checked out, left the workforce. Now they discovered, I got no savings and I got no money, got to go back to work. So you're hearing reports that restaurants now, for the first time in nearly 3 years, are having no problems finding people to work. So a lot of things are kind of different this time. What's going to happen? All indicators still look towards a bullish second half with the stock market, but that does not mean that the economy will be strong. I think last time I checked, 18 of the 50 states in the United States are in recession right now. And I think that's only going to get worse as we go forward. So it is the most dangerous words. This time is different. Everything is structurally different. The world is different. The money printing continues. $850 billion were printed over the last month. You can just debase your currency right away out of the gate. And that's making Bitcoin very strong. So, just be in Bitcoin. Forget all the other nonsense and noise that's out there.
Yeah, and by the way, speaking about macro, we have the Trueflation chart, which I think you, James, mentioned a few streams back, and this is, if you can put it on the screen, CTO, you click down below there. For all the guys who don't know, if you can go to Trueflation, trueflation.com, in order to see the true inflation, not the rear view mirror inflation that the Fed looks at, but the true inflation, and you can read about their methodology. But within the finance circles, this is the side that everyone goes to in order to see the real inflation and to avoid the Fed announced inflation numbers, and to get the true insights into how the economy is doing and how inflation is doing. And it has been trending down for quite some time, as you can see, and currently it is at 2.44%. And obviously, whenever you do see this kind of numbers, the market could be front-running future rate decreases from the Fed.
Exactly.
So that's something that will be interesting to follow as well when the Fed starts to look at their numbers, and their numbers also start to look like Trueflation, because normally it's lagging. Their numbers are always lagging while Trueflation is ahead of the curve. And that can coincide very nicely with the halving. When we do have the Bitcoin halving, we do see the Fed pivot, we do see ETF coming online. Probably many ETFs will come online if just one of them goes online, because they're all the same. They're all very similar. So we could be in for a perfect storm for Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah. In fact, there was another interesting piece, I don't know if you guys saw, that came out in the news. Like 2 trad banks came out and gave their price targets for Bitcoin. I think Standard & Chartered said 125,000 next year, and Matrix Port as well, 120,000. And that's a big kind of ballsy move for these big trad banks to come out and say that. And of course, they are building their own Bitcoin businesses as well. So you're so right, Ivan, the way the narrative has literally flipped a 180 in a very short window of time ever since the BlackRock announcement. And yes, we're set up for a beautiful, perfect storm. Next 18 months will be a lot of fun. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and I feel also that the fact that the yield has been moving up like this and Bitcoin has actually not dumped, I think that is really striking. Sometimes it's worth noting what doesn't happen, right? If
Yes.
you see here how this yield curve has just kept climbing. And what has happened with Bitcoin? Nothing. It's just stayed completely flat since 21st of June, irrespective of what has happened there. So if this one now starts dumping again, if this is really the top, which would make a lot of sense for the reasons you said, if this is the top and starts moving down, that could really be the rocket fuel we need to clear this level and move up higher. So I think it's a super exciting point in the market. I haven't changed my mind. If the yield had broken out 2 days ago and started really moving up, then it would be a different situation, but it didn't. It got rejected. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, an even more important chart as well to pull up, CTO, is the Dixie dollar index. That tells an even more exciting picture.
It does, because that one also seemed strong. Then 2 days ago here, it actually dumped back down, and it no longer looks like a strong chart.
Yep.
So definitely, do you want to add something to that one, James?
Nope, not at all. But everything is aligned. Everything's looking really good right now.
It is. Yeah. So I was a little scared actually 2 days ago when it looked like the yield broke out, but then it didn't. It rejected. So very happy about that. Should we move on? Because something else. So just to sum up, I don't think Bitcoin has stalled. I think this is a very exciting point in the market. Should we move on? Something happened actually that I saw on my Twitter. I haven't been so much on social media this past couple of days, but I saw a USDT depeg tweet this morning when I woke up, and I almost choked even before I had my coffee. But it turned out it was on Binance US. It was not on Binance.com. But what is happening here with the USDT, and is it depegging or not, and what is happening with the spread on the different Binance exchanges. Who wants to start?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Binance US has a lot of legal issues right now, and the prices we see there are not true markets. It's not possible to arbitrage it like in other markets. So it's not only Tether that is depegged. Bitcoin has also depegged from other prices on other markets. So to me, it looks like it's a closed ecosystem where it's no longer connected to the global arbitrage opportunities. And let's see how it evolves. But Binance is, as you all know, under a lot of pressure in the US.
See if I can show the chart here. Yeah, what do you think, James, while I'm working on the chart here?
Yeah, I'm trying to actually share a tweet I put out yesterday, if that works.
It's on.
Okay, so the first chart, if you look at, this is the huge discrepancy, like the price variance between Binance US, and the rest of other quotes. You can see that, 1948 for Solana versus 2133. And then if you go to the next, you'll see other variances, like Bitcoin trading under 27K yesterday, ETH 1600, Tether depegged. Again, this is all because I think the Binance team, they've been cut off from the traditional rings of kind of on-ramps, etc. They also have no market makers right now, and that is the reason for the spread. It's nothing to do with USDT. It's due to the problems that Binance are having right now, and that's the issue. They are also moving huge amounts of money around from shell company to shell company. I haven't been able to figure it all out as to what they're trying to do. And then they got the stuff going with True USD with Justin Sun, and I think Binance now has 80% of the entire float of that as well. So a lot of strange games. And as I always say, crypto is the Wild West, so allocate accordingly. There's a lot of funny games that are way beyond our control, but they're controlled by the power players, and you don't want to be caught up with that as well out there.
Yeah. Ivan, what do you see anything else happening here?
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems that no one wants to arbitrage it. No one wants to deposit their funds into Binance US to buy cheap Bitcoin and then withdraw it, if it's even possible.
Yeah.
So that's the reason.
And it's not really the responsibility of the exchange to do market making. Like, that's a different set of companies that normally do market making to arbitrage and so on. It's not really the exchange.
But that's the point. The market makers have run away. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's why nobody can arbit away. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was the chart that was posted here. Here is Binance.us, USDT to USD, and at the 20, you've seen that it didn't really happen. Now it's been trending down all the way back to 21st of June.
But I wonder if withdrawals are still working, because why wouldn't someone arbitrage it if withdrawals are working? Maybe everyone is super scared that they're gonna shut down any second. But for all of you guys who are watching in the US and have Binance US, maybe you can report to us if crypto withdrawals are working, because then
exactly. I was also going to ask. We have one answer here already. Cybertooth Tiger. You can't deposit Binance US, only trade funds already. So that explains.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So that's fine. So it's not a problem with USDT. I could have my coffee in peace. So that's good. Solana pump. Let's move on. Let me switch charts here. 1 second. Share this tab. Because we've had a huge Solana pump actually since the last stream. And it's really been noteworthy. It looks kind of small on these charts, but we're talking like 50% move on the BTC chart, and on the USD chart from the wick here, it's like 75% pump in a very short period of time. So we always joke that James, despite being a very small part of your capital, as you shared before. We still treat you jokingly, we treat you as the Solana support here. So what's your thoughts on what has driven this significant pump?
Yeah, so I also watch some of the fund flows. You have a lot of people now that were detractors from Solana for the longest time, like ETH maxis, etc. They are all seeing the relative value of it, stuff that I've been talking about for years. They're now seeing, oh, hang on a second, it's trading at a 40th of the market cap of ETH, but it has more daily active users, etc., etc. So people are now kind of beginning to place their bets on layer ones across kind of modular versus monolithic. And people are seeing the relative value, because that's what investing is at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about the best asset. It's the cost of the asset at a point in time, whether it has more relative value to other assets. And part of my job is to find things that are cheap. And there comes times in markets where the markets wake up and they become a little bit rational, not totally rational. So we're seeing some of that happening right now. I think that's pretty much it. Also, what happened was Solana had, a black eye, broken tooth, broken ankle. It's been hit left, right, center, and people are waking up to the resilience. Also, you have sell pressures gone. There's a lot of concern about different exchanges like Robinhood, etc., selling their Solana bags. All that sell pressure is kind of gone now. So it's just business as usual. I think now the accumulation is not being hit with that sell pressure, and that caused the price to go up. Ivan, what do you think?
Yeah, the view that many people have now is that buying Solana at 20 or 17 or 18 is kind of like buying ETH at 80. That's something that I hear more and more and more, because ETH dumped from, what was it, 1.1k to $80 in the last bear market, and Solana dumped from 250 to 100 to was it 9 or something 10 at the bottom? Yeah, it's crazy. So the fact that we are seeing Solana return and actually start to put in some nice trend is super bullish, especially if it can get above that channel that CTO has on the screen right now. Because always it's impossible to time the bottom. No one does that. But when you have a clear trend, for example, if it can set a new high above that channel, above the $30 line seems to be the most significant one, because that's where it was before the FTX collapse. So if we can get above that, it can really return into a bullish trend quite quickly. But right now, most people are still cautious though, because it's still super cheap. And at $30, it was super cheap, but now and then it went to 9, and now it's 24. So it's still a bit of hesitation in the market. But as soon as we do see a nice confirmation above those lows, above those previous highs at $30, that will be very nice. That's when a lot of algos are gonna get triggered to the bullish side.
Yeah. And I want to add, sorry. No,
one tiny point as well. CTO, you mentioned it. The Sol BTC chart is also very important to look at, because you have, with such extreme Bitcoin dominance, and then you see Sol BTC doing a 33% move in 10 days. That's a big move, as you mentioned before. And that means maybe the Bitcoin dominance is at the top too, when you see alts rallying, and then you see other alts as well chasing up the rear of Solana. It's like people say to themselves, okay, Solana has pumped. Where's AVAX? Where's Near Protocol? And then they all pump a few days later. It's like, it's still the same thing is happening like over the last 2 years.
Exactly. I just want to answer one comment or address one concern here, Mr. Viking. Do we have to shield Solana on every DCA? We've heard the thesis. So I just want to comment on why I'm bringing it up again. 2 reasons. I actually took a trade, as I shared a couple of almost a month back. Now I'm out of that one, but I'm really interested in Solana for 2 reasons. One being that this chart is very interesting. It looks like small moves, but we're talking 10x moves here, guys. There's like 100x moves in this chart. There's 10x moves in this chart. Small moves like this, we're talking almost, what was it, 75%. A small move like this is 75%. So it's an interesting chart from that perspective, because if this one has another real pump and we manage to get in, it's huge. Also, the second reason is that there's not that many projects that I think has a realistic chance of actually making it. But I think Solana is one of them, and that's why I'm paying attention, and I'm very happy for a good trade that we had.
It also shows the problem that people never complained about us shilling Bitcoin, do they? But exactly, you know what? Exactly. It means they don't have solid bags, and they may have a position in another asset, and they're wondering why that's not getting attention. And that's the problem, everybody. And I placed my bets, 2.5 years ago at this stage of what I believe is the ETH killer. My narrative has never changed, not 1 second. And that's my third crypto position. And what I do, and it's been a terrible time, through the bear market for many crypto assets, including Solana. But the point is, our job is to identify what is solid. I remember I got so much hate, making videos about Tesla when it was at 106. And so stop talking about Tesla. It's bullshit. It's dead. No. And then we have like so many crypto people who watch my audience. The first ever share that they bought was Tesla, first ever stock. So our job is to identify relative value. And I think the audience needs to understand that. And hope is not a strategy in this space at all. Ivan, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I like that Solana has recovered from a 90% drop, even more than 90, like what is it, 97 or something. And the cult is intact. Solana community is here. That's very important. And also, like someone says in the chat, there are quite good developments with Cardano as well. Like if we are to shield something else, if you look at Cardano TVL, it is like Marcelo said in the chat, in other terms, it is at an all-time high in DeFi. And in terms of new projects that are getting traction, it is doing quite well. Like I invested in the last bull market into a project called Iagon. It's like kind of like Render, but on Solana, but on ADA, also with storage, stuff like that. And I just saw now it pumped, so it's just from all-time high. From all-time high, it is just 40%. It pumped from like minus 99,999 to now just 40% left to pump to all-time high, and that's on Cardano. So the best thing an ecosystem can have, whether it's Cardano or Solana, is projects that pump. Does it have a DEX? Does it have projects that pump, projects that do well? So it's not only that Solana is coming back, I also feel that overall crypto is coming back. And just today we saw the Binance Launchpad announce that they're gonna do Launchpad for Arkham Invest, which is this on-chain analytics platform, and they're gonna have a token so that people can contribute with their own on-chain alpha. But that's also a sign. If Binance starts to come back with new launch pads on their exchange, is another fuel to the fire of the altcoin season, because you just need a few of these launch pads to do well, and then more projects come out, and then everyone who's been quiet now sees an opportunity to launch, because many projects are quiet. They don't want to launch in a bear market. So overall, for me, it's not only Solana, although I'm very impressed by Solana. I'm way more bullish now on Solana than ever after this drop and survival. But for me, it's more overall. Like overall, crypto is coming back and surprising us. I mean, even Cardano, who was all about white paper and peer review and reviewing the peer review for years and years and years, is finally starting to deliver. So overall, this is a fantastic time, and I'm seeing bullishness across the board, including Solana, but also ADA. Now we just need to see something more with like Avalanche and more stuff on Cosmos. That those two ecosystems are still a bit quiet for now, at least. But let's see. Probably they're next.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I try to be very non-religious. I covered ADA and the Friday TIA report for a long time. It's just that the chart hasn't turned around. It looks like this. I literally made a video about the top.
But look at Solana. Look at Solana ETH, because that one is. Let's see if it looks better. I think I looked at it. Yeah, it is also turning back. But yeah, I mean, definitely Solana is starting to recover, but none of them are like against ETH. Is it even in the yellow yet there on your Larson line?
Not yet, but
it's coming.
Soon.
But yeah, definitely like. we're waiting for these flippings in all of the tier. Like if Bitcoin and ETH are tier 1, then Solana, ADA, like Polygon, all of that, tier 2. So if Solana is first to flip it, then it's just a question of time before others also start flipping.
Exactly. And I mean, this is the opportunity in this sector, that the moves are so extreme. Like it can go, no one thinks it can happen at the bottom, but then good projects go down like 97%. And that means that they can go in the other direction also. And this is where the 10x, 100x crazy moves are coming from. And just getting one of those right, it can be life-changing for many people. So that's why we love this market and why it's so interesting.
Just one thing about Cardano versus Sol. I think last time I checked, which was like yesterday, Solana was down 91% and it is bullish trend, and ADA was down 90% and is bearish trend. So Solana is technically more upside with the bullish trend, ADA 1% less upside to go to all-time high with a bearish trend. So if you put everything on a scale, then yes, Solana does look bullish in the current time, like today, right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and at the same time, most projects don't make it in the end, and that's really the challenge and the opportunity, that there is a few that will go up insane multiples and many won't. But I want to pick up on something else that you said there about crowdfunding. And I think one thing that I feel is a little pity is that altcoins really started as ICOs. Ethereum was an ICO, BNB, which became Binance, was an ICO, Cardano ADA was an ICO, and they were really democratic. It was like grassroots people who invested. Then those projects really became something. Arguably, Ethereum changed the world. Binance is challenging exchanges on a big scale and so on and so forth. And it really turned into something great. While that kind of almost stopped, because then the SEC came in and said that, no, but actually these are securities, you need to register as if you're doing an IPO, and there's a lot of things to be done, and then everyone stopped doing that. And it kind of went back to the old model, where only the already rich people who have who are accredited investors and have investment companies, like the professional VCs, took over again. And suddenly the retail people were locked out from the earliest investors. And I mean, there were pros and cons with that, because of course this accelerated, and suddenly 99% or 99.9% of the ICOs were scams. But there were a few good ones also that then went up 1000x and more. What do you think about this? Do you think it's going to come back? You mentioned the launch pads of Binance are coming back. Ivan, do you think that this period is coming back? Or is it just...
You cannot sell to retail. It is what it is. If you don't want problem with the SEC, you cannot do that. So instead what you can do is an airdrop, which is, I guess, a gray zone, because I read that in the 90s, like in the late 90s with the dot-com bubble, people did airdrop stocks of these dot-com companies, and that was cracked down on. So probably airdrops, if not yet, is also going to get cracked down on. But that's why everyone is doing airdrops. You need to use the product and maybe you can claim some airdrop. But other than that, it is to sell to VCs and then have a Uniswap pool and people buy from that pool, which is technically a difference. But practically, I don't know how big a difference that is, because it's still like, you know, retail buys from your pool that you fund with your money. So what is the difference of you like selling the token in ICO, or they buy it from the pool? But it's still big enough difference to be a regulatory arbitrage, because if it is on Uniswap, it is seen as you're not selling it yourself, even though it's only your pool. And there's still a bit of regulatory arbitrage there. But overall, it's due to the SEC. They're not protecting anyone. They're not protecting anyone. They are shutting people off from opportunity, because if you're doing a project, it's not worth the risk in many cases to do a crowd sale like in the old days. Instead, it is either airdrop, sell to VCs, and then do Uniswap pool and people buy from the pool, or some other like a Curve did. They had an anonymous llama launch the token. You know that Curve did not launch their token. It was an anonymous llama that launched it, some anonymous dude, and someone created the pool. They did not create the pool. So you have to go through this. You need to do a backflip basically to do a token launch, that it is what it is. Until the SEC changes, I think we'll continue to see this kind of exclusive token generation events.
And I do believe, for what it's worth, Uniswap is a kind of like a corporate decentralized theater hiding behind licenses. So it's not decentralized as you may think, and I think that's maybe what the SEC is going after too, but I haven't been tracking the story too closely.
I've read that also, but I don't really get it, because it's not that Uniswap can stop anyone with trading. Chainlink, I think, could be different, and I know Chris Blake on Twitter is digging a lot into all of the multi-sigs that are involved with the data feeds and things like that. But when it comes to Uniswap, it's just liquidity pools. It's super simple. Now, with Uniswap version 4 that they announced, where you can have custom code in each liquidity pool, so that when you launch a liquidity pool on version 4, you could potentially enforce KYC on your pools. That is a concern, and I think that's what people mean, that with the new version of Uniswap, it has a lot of things that can be fully KYC, that you cannot even access a pool if you don't KYC. But if you just look at their announcement, you may not instantly understand that, because they just say, oh, you can do custom code and you can script your pools however you want. But yes, that could lead to more KYC. And at the end of the day, also with a lot of the DeFi protocols, sometimes I wonder what is the end game, because if you have a multi-sig and you have keys to this DeFi kingdom, maybe the end game is to sell it to some TradFi. That's one thing that I think more and more people should be thinking about, and we should be demanding more decentralization, because hacks are happening. Just look at what happened to multi-chain bridge because of not sufficient decentralization, but also regulatory attacks are happening. So you gotta decentralize before it's too late. And I think some DeFi protocols, they have these keys in order to exit at some point into TradFi or something like that. But let's see how it plays out. It's still a bit of a conspiracy theory territory.
Definitely. But the SEC has really they have started suing the DeFi protocols.
Exactly. Well, they started that in 2021. It's an old story, so it's not the first time they've done it. They're just going after anybody they can. I thought they would have actually taken a pause after all the backlash, but it looks like maybe they're back again. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Let's move on. Are stablecoins a threat to financial stability? James, you mentioned this BIS survey. And,
yeah, it's funny because, the BIS, etc. There's a brilliant video I saw on exactly how they operate. These 12 individuals in a magic kingdom up in a cloud somewhere, the way they move money around and manipulate everything. They're worried about their own fiefdom, as it were. And the BIS is now very concerned about stablecoins because, if the world does go digital and they move to stablecoins, even though they are pegged to fiat currencies, that could take away a lot of their power. And they are, the usual talking lines like Lagarde and ECB. Oh, yeah, they're concerned stablecoins will be used to facilitate money laundering and other financial crimes. And they could pose a systemic risk to the financial system. And they just basically want to either have full control over them. They see the world as going digital, and they need to have that control, like central banks, like everybody else in the world. That's exactly what the BIS are doing. And you could take out the I, and then you have a good acronym for what it is at the end of the day. So it's just, the world is waking up to fiat debasement slowly but surely. And the incumbent players are getting very nervous. I think that's the best way to summarize what's going on here.
Ivan, what's your thoughts? Is it a threat? Are we wrecking the whole world?
It's an opportunity, of course. If the US doesn't embrace stablecoins, it's such an opportunity loss to have everything on the internet denominated in US dollars. I don't know what this, BIS, IMF talking about. I don't know how relevant that is, because it seems that the world is moving in our direction, no matter what they write. And you have regulation in Europe coming with MiCA, which sets clear path how to do crypto business, whether it's a stablecoin or an exchange or a token launch and so on and so forth. So it seems that maybe they don't really have that much they cannot affect the regulation of crypto that to such an extent. I don't know why, because you would think that they would be super anti-crypto and they would affect all the regulators to follow in their footsteps and follow their tune. But at least in the EU, it's looking quite good. But probably because the tech is so good. I mean, how can you do it? How can you ban it? How can you remove it? It's so great. So you gotta be involved in it, and you gotta capture it. So that's one theory that could play out. That ETFs get launched. They get very big. We see Bitcoin pump to 100K, 200K, and then they crash the market so that everyone runs to the government and asks for regulation. So the maximum amount of people get wrecked in crypto via ETFs. Maybe that's one possible way. I'm just thinking how they can still keep control. Maybe you guys have some ideas, because obviously crypto is taking control from fiat. Crypto is becoming bigger. There's nothing they can do to stop it. So maybe the only way to control it is to have a big fat ETF that owns most of Bitcoin in circulation. And then they also need regulations to be passed in order to control it. So maybe the plan is to create the ETF, pump it up, get everyone involved, and crash it, buy everything cheap, and get regulations through. That could be a scenario that seems reasonable to. But maybe that's how I would do it if I would be BIS Augustos, the boss of BIS, which is, by the way, the final boss of crypto. I normally share him on the channel.
Yeah, I mean, crypto is a threat to the legacy financial system. That's what it is, right? And people say that, okay, but stablecoins has no point. Okay, but that's people who has never tried selling anything on the internet and using PayPal or whatever, bank transfer for collecting payment. Compare that with using USDT or something, which is radically faster, radically cheaper, radically more global, and so on and so forth. And of course, it's more efficient. So I'm sure that it's only now that many people in the traditional financial system start realizing that it is a threat, because it is a threat, and it's very hard to stop the technology when its time has come. So yeah, I agree. I think it is a time. I think we're having potentially, I don't think it's only me, I think we have a little choppy audio, maybe because the priority of this beach location isn't the best internet. So do we have some final words?
I can hear it. No, I can hear you in a good way.
The hotel staff are watching you, and they're sucking up all the bandwidth.
Maybe they added more cables now. Exactly, yeah, that could be. Or they added more cables. It's working better.
There's one key point here, and this is why I think the three of us are here to share what we see with the world out there in a very objective way. If Bitcoin and crypto and Ethereum, etc., did not exist, central bank digital currencies would not exist, nor would the arms race by central banks to create them in the world, because they are trying to protect their fiefdom. And that is the big message for today, everybody. You need to be careful of the system, and you need to be careful of how you position yourself for the future, because if you are holding fiat, the value will be less than half within 10 years, guaranteed. That's just history. You need something hard to invest in, and you need something that will not be debased away, especially over the next 5 to 10 years, with all of the benefits that are coming from governments because of aging populations, etc., and structural changes in workforces. Tax bases of governments are going down. They will need to find ways to get very creative with their humans so they can control them. And I think the central bank digital currency is exactly that.
But
so
guys,
it's very Orwellian. Yeah.
We've been too bearish on fiat. Way too bearish. Way too bearish. Because, you know why? Because, I'll tell you, because Christine Lagarde just said that we can choose the color of the new design of euro. So we are invited to participate in the future of euro. That made me super bullish. So they can devalue it and steal our money with our design. That's perfect. Oh, I love
that's it. That's amazing. How do I get some of this euro stuff?
Go and watch on my tweet. I retweeted it. It's so funny.
Can we pick the logo, like put a picture of the devil on the money or something?
Yeah, I mean, she said it is your money, so that we should feel, wow, This is our money. Let's go. Let's buy euros. Let's affect the future of euro.
That's the desperation we're talking about. These folks are getting really, really anxious about losing that control. It's so fun to watch when you're on the outside looking in. If you are, your average person that doesn't have time to look at all this stuff, it's just normal. If you talk to family members, they don't see any problem at all because they don't study the space. But it's kind of scary. Okay, I'll be quiet.
Exactly.
Yeah, Euro has not been doing so great over long periods of time. So she maybe needs some new color on the money if it's not green. So yeah, that's very, very interesting. What else? Do we have other topics to cover, or do we round it off a little early? I have not been following social media as much the past couple of days, so there might be some big events.
Well, I mean, the overall sentiment is sideways, not too much excitement. Although, if you look at the small caps, and when we look at which coins are getting capital inflows in the last 24 hours, what I like about that is that we do see more quality. We do see a bit less meme coins. We do see a bit more DeFi plays. We do see a bit more traditional DeFi, new DeFi as well. Let me quickly share here. This is my number one thing I look at every morning. What is happening in all coins, like today. Not yesterday, not on a 1 week, but today. And normally I look at the net volume in Morales Money. And if you just looked at this a few days back, you would just, Pepe 2, Pepe 3, SHIB 1, 2, 3, all of these memes that are getting printed. But it seems that we do see a bit of quality now. We do see a bit of real projects like Blur, Frax, still a bit of memes like Jim and stuff like that. But then Matic, you see here, Libra, which is very interesting. It's with LSDFi, where you basically have a stablecoin which is based on staked ETH. So it also pays you yield. You have BitDAO, which is by Bybit, and they're building a scaling solution for ETH. It's gonna, by the way, be rebranded to MantleDAO. You have Olympus. So you have more, and this one is interesting, by the way, Open Exchange. I don't know if you guys have followed this, but this is from the 3 Arrow Capital guy. Apparently, they're not in jail, and they are creating new projects. That was news for me, but this is some kind of on-chain derivative exchange that they're building, or at least one of the guys, the Kyle of this 3 Arrow Capital duo is building this OX exchange. Then you do see Illuvium, which is gaming, Curve. So yeah, I mean, overall, and then lower down, you still see a bit of memes like Homer and a few other ones. But this is what I think is needed for the next leg up in altcoins. Some real projects, some real things that pump that are not just another meme. So we get some more inspiration into this industry in order to build something that people can use. We can try things. Maybe we can connect wallet to website. We can farm. We can do different things. We can trade. We can lend. We can borrow. This is what I feel the industry is craving for. So if we see more days like this where true quality gets rewarded, that's taking us further and closer to the next big altcoin leg up, because we cannot do it with memes. I don't think that we can do it with meme guys. It's enough. Everyone is tired. But quality coins, that's the way forward for the next altcoin leg up. So let's see. That is when the dominance probably will collapse as well.
Yeah, and that's so on the chat as well. People are concerned about this gold-backed BRICS currency and the impact that would have. And I think it's just another flavor of fiat, except for this time it'll be run by dictators. And will it really be gold backed? Can you trust it more? But I do think it will definitely take away some of the hegemony that the US dollar has, for sure. That's the big concern there. But again, we won't be buying BRICS currency or fiats. We'll be buying other things, I believe. What do you guys think about that BRICS gold-backed currency?
You're muted, CTO. No, but I agree with you. It's bullish. It's very bullish for crypto though, because it's gonna take away a market share from the US dollar, decentralizing and basically siloing the financial the financial world, which is bullish for crypto because you need a neutral global currency which works across nations, across time zones and continents. And also the problem with a lot of the BRICS countries is the lack of rule of law. If you are friends with the government today, okay, you're rich, you're an oligarch, very good. You're not friends tomorrow, all your property can be taken away from you. No matter if you have the existing fiat they have or if you're gonna have the gold-backed fiat, you still don't have rule of law and property rights because a lot of your own wealth may not be fully legit either, because just how this system works, just how you have to work and operate in that system. And that's why a lot of rich people from Russia historically have been moving all their assets to the West, which is now, by the way, impossible. So crypto is the only solution. And the same thing is probably in China and other places. Yes, you are wealthy, but how do you ensure that you keep it? Crypto is the only way. And the BRICS gold-backed currency doesn't solve that. And in fact, it only creates more demand for crypto as a lot of these bridges are being burned. Before you could go to the West, now maybe it's not that easy anymore. So crypto is the only solution.
Yeah, in fact, if you measure Bitcoin in rubles, it's gone up 200% over the last 200 days. You can't make that stuff up. So either there's a lot more demand in Russia for Bitcoin all of a sudden, or the debasement of the ruble is happening really fast. Which one do you think it is, Ivan?
Well, I mean, it's both. The ruble is debasing. It's the economy is super closed, and although I don't think that it will, many people say no, it's gonna die, it's gonna collapse. I mean, Russia is super big in terms of natural resources. I'm sure they will survive in one way or another, but the currency in general has a very bad track record. In Russia and in Belarus, where I was born, they remove 4 zeros each and every few years from the currency. Russia has been a bit more stable, but also just look at the 90s. It wasn't that long ago where they had the default. So it can definitely happen again. But overall, the only way to store wealth is crypto, whether it is Russia, post-Soviet Union, most of the post-Soviet Union space. And if you go and you speak to people there, they clearly understand Bitcoin. It's a big gap between understanding of Bitcoin in these countries and the West, where the financial system has been working much better. And the value proposition for them is super clear.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm having a little bit outages here, but I think it doesn't affect you in the audience because I think your streams go to the server and then out on the internet. So, but let's remind everyone, if you haven't already, subscribe to Ivan and James. You're missing out on a lot of things that at least I learn a lot from both of you. I always look forward to Mondays because I learn a lot every single Monday. And I hope you have enjoyed this stream. And I'm going to go back to the beach.
Enjoy the beach. Good to see you, Ivan.
Enjoy.
Have a great week, everybody out there. Markets, I think, will be stable, pretty much.
Exactly. And on Monday next week, which channel are we on?
Mine. It was Ivan last week. It was this week.
Fantastic.
Okay. See you all on Monday on James' channel.
Travel safe,
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care.